up? Big Herc 916, positivity, motivation, never settle for average. Go to bigherc916.com, pick you up some merch, grab your original piece of art or a bar of soap and wash your ass. Please do us all a favor and don't walk around funky. You know I'm always lacing you guys up over here, so hit that like button, smash the subscribe button, share the channel, represent. And, I've said it before that your environment is key in shaping who you are today and your surroundings and how they impact you, especially as a child, as you're growing and you're being influenced. And this man right here kind of explains exactly what I've talked about in a multitude of my videos. Check it out.
Had more to do with your child's life by where you chose to live than by anything you will ever do inside that home. Short of abuse, neglect, or malnutrition, the rest of it is just trivial variation. It's where you live. Why? Because out-of-home influences are more powerful in shaping the life course of your child than in-home influences are. And those out-of-home influences are peer groups, other adults, neighborhoods, resources, schools, and the larger community that you made available to this child. That is how you shape your child's life course. The second biggest influence is also out of your hands, and that's genetics. And you don't get to determine that. Now, do not mistake what I am saying. The knowledge your child possesses, what they know, is clearly a function of exposure in the environment. But their traits, their abilities, their makeup, their personality is not.
Yeah, outside influences, peer groups, schools, teachers, all these things greatly influence a child's perspective on life, how they go about making choices, and of course, genetics. Genetics you can't change. You can improve upon what you've been given, but you have to work with what you have, and it takes effort. But outside the house, it's crazy how a child exposed to certain things will view life differently than another child exposed to the same things. It's like two children growing up in the same household, but they see two different opportunities, two different choices. And then you have children that grew up in a certain environment, and yet some are able to work their way out of that environment and cross over into another environment. For myself, I grew up in a multitude of environments, and it's helped shape who I am today. And I'm very fortunate because by having lived in those different environments, it allowed me to reflect and to have a point of reference when I was in a very dark place. Living on a military base for some years was an experience. Being around a lot of culture, having friends from different ethnic backgrounds. I never saw race, and a lot of people are amazed by that because everything they talk about is race. I just got into a big discussion with somebody the other day about white supremacy, and I'm like, it just blows my mind. I've never entertained white supremacy. I've seen Aryan brothers in the pen. I've seen dudes, but I mind my business, they mind their business, but I've never walked around on the street and was like white supremacy. Even when I got put in situations with the police, it just, that wasn't something I entertained. But anyways, growing up on a military base, a multitude of cultures, Filipino, Latino, Caucasian, Hawaiian. I never tripped, I stay at some of my friends' house, and their families would have gumbo and different types of soul food. And I go to my other friend's house, we'd have lumpia and grilled pork, and then we go over here, we have pancakes and whatever type of dishes. But I mean, it was like everybody was family, no big deal, right? You didn't think about police brutality. Lived on a military base, you had military police. You weren't tripping off that stuff, man. It wasn't any racial. Everybody's, father was in the military. It wasn't none of that bullshit, man. It wasn't even a thought. And this was when I lived in the Bay Area, Treasure Island. Shout out to the Bay Area. Then I moved to Sacramento, back to Sacramento. I grew up in Sacramento originally, but I moved back to Sacramento, and it was a different environment. Things changed. Where I moved to, it was a different vibe. And although I went to school with a lot of other kids, and it was pretty still mixed and a lot of culture, it impacted me a certain way, and I picked up certain things between going to school, coming home, hanging out, and it influenced me in a way that, even though it was a short amount of time, because when we moved from the military base to Sacramento, it was, 8th, 9th, 10th grade. I was roughly 13, so very critical age where you're highly influenced. And, I was into BMXing and skateboarding and, very creative, very artistic, into a lot of different things. That environment, I picked up on some of the negatives, and not to say that there weren't positives, but I picked up on some of the negatives when I got there. So from the time 13, 14, 15, and then I moved when I just turned 16. I got arrested twice when I was 15. Got in a multitude of fights, sold drugs, got into some gangbanging stuff. It took me in a different direction, all by exposure to the surrounding environment. Even though I was still a straight A student, 4.0. Maybe got 1 B here and there, but I was a 4.0 student. Moms got married, moved us out of Sac, North Highlands, went to Huntington Beach, OC, the suburbs, and man, I was culture shock. Because I had been programmed for some real street shit. I'd already, done time in juvenile hall and went to the boys ranch, and then I came over here. You got surfing, you got skateboarding, you have just a lot of squares, kids who never been in fights. These kids are, they're, more concerned with sports and just hanging out, and they're not tripping off of the new Jordans or, claiming anything. It was just different. And I was confused, and it threw me off, but it kept me out of trouble. Man. Predominantly white area, 4 or 5 black kids there. I did good. I had good grades. I was always smart in school, but I didn't fit in because I was programmed. Even though I used to skateboard, I could have got back into skateboarding, but I wasn't there. My mind was, I was on some thug shit. And I continued kind of like that part of me was in almost like dormant. And then when I graduated, because I only had 2 years in Huntington, junior, senior year, and then I moved back to Sacramento, got right back into shit. But the moral of all this and what I'm saying, and my point is that the exposure to these two different environments impacted me greatly to a degree I didn't recognize until I was able to reflect when I was in the pen. And then I thought about how I grew up in North Highlands, how I grew up on a military base, and then how I was exposed to Huntington Beach and the time I was there and things I did. And it's like, wow, I was able to make sense of it, but I didn't make sense of it when I was a young man and nobody explained it to me. So to break it down, for you parents out there, if you have the opportunity to get your kid out the damn hood, put them around some, individuals who you feel will positively influence him as far as, check the school, see what kind of, get a vibe for the type of families and programs they have there. All that's going to make a big determination on who your child becomes. Sometimes the kid can break away from that and still succeed, but there's a lot of things weighing heavily in that high school time frame. Because I could tell you, 30 something years later, I know guys who still talk about high school, hitting the home run, winning the championships, this cheerleader, this football game, this fight, this dude, don't nobody talk about, what they really did in college. They talk about those high school years, who they dated, what kind of car they drive, who had the kegger parties, who got shot, all these things. So it's so important that you pay attention to where your child grows up, and it allows them to further develop the genetic the tools they were gifted. So pay attention to those things, man. I'm just saying, I would definitely make the sacrifices to move my child if I had a daughter or a son, to make sure they got the best education, the best connections, the best opportunities. And, with shit going on now, I'd probably homeschool, but I would make sure if they were in a school where it was outside the home or around outside influences like programs and stuff, it would be where they would get the best opportunities without the bullshit. So real talk, the outside influences are going to have just a greater impact than your family for the most part. Unless you have a structure where you're getting schooled at home and your mother, your father is there with you 24/7. But if you're out and you're spending 9-10 hours at school, coming home from school, the travel in between school, sports and stuff like that, you're hearing all these different things, and what your parents say is just wah 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 wah, and then what your friends say is like, yeah man, woo woo wop, and it's just it's a challenge, and it's a struggle, and kids, they go through it. So just something to think about, but it's real talk. Big Herc 916.
Officially, I only got one real spanking my entire life. My mom did the best a 14-year-old could do, raising me with love and instilling values that will last a lifetime. I was a straight A student and lived to make her happy. So how did I go astray? A horrible stepdad that stole my self-worth and invoked fear turned me into a person that I struggled to overcome. From skateboarding to selling drugs, gang banging in juvenile hall, I got caught the same way many young promising men get caught up. I struggled to find my identity, getting mixed up in shootouts, crime, and the adult entertainment industry. This roller coaster continued as I juggled college, hustling, and Hollywood, eventually catching a federal bank robbery case. I found redemption in prison while serving a 120-month federal sentence and came out a man on a mission. I became a social media influencer with over 500 million views on YouTube and a life coach mentoring people all over the world. This is my journey against all odds.
Go to bigherc916.com and purchase you a bar of soap, one of the books I've written, a hat, a beanie, a t-shirt, tank top, or some detail spray for your car. Hello, my name is Big Herc 916, and I'm with the Wash Your Ass Committee, and I'm traveling across America helping people wash their ass and get their booty holes clean. And I have with me here today Wash Your Ass Soap, and this one in particular is Butt Naked Scrub. But I also have Festival, Oatmeal Milk and Honey, Jamaican Me Crazy, Monkey Farts, and all these scents smell very good. They will help cleanse your body of funk and also make you feel better about yourself. So if you can go to BigKirk916.com, you can pick you up a bar. And my goal is to help America combat funk.